All right, folks. Well, I think we're ready to get started here. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. My name is Randy Jones. I'm a co-founder at United Public Affairs, formerly National Political Director on Andrew Yang's presidential campaign. We're very lucky to be joined today by members of the communications and I think also digital staff from the Pete Buttigieg campaign for president. The last primary, obviously, former employees of Secretary Buttigieg now. So we congratulate him on all of his success. We've convened today to have a chat on this October 27th National Mentoring Day. I think in politics specifically, but in almost every industry, our mentors are so important for helping us get to where we are now and where we've been. And I remember my father always used to talk about, like so many others, it's not what you do, but it's who you know. But he always added to that those relationships are what you make of them, right? And I think that is a big part of mentorship. So first, I want to kick it over to Amy Pritchard of Gain Power, who is graciously hosting this for us and with us today. And Amy, why don't you tell us about yourself and a little bit about Gain?
Thanks, Randy, and welcome, Team Pete. I'm very excited to see you all here today, and I just want to welcome you and thank you for participating in this right now and say hey to some of the others who are attending. I am the founder of Gain Power. We launched about 1.5 years ago to be a platform to connect and network and market the folks who work in progressive and democratic politics. We are kind of a next iteration of a previous organization, Democratic Gain, which I actually launched over 18 years ago. So I've been doing this for a while. I won't bore you all of the others with the gory background, except to say, and the relevant part for today, is it really is to connect people and to provide a space to support folks who work in progressive politics, particularly young folks, particularly new folks, whatever their age may be, who really want to come into this space, because I do think it's an amazing opportunity to work on all sorts of campaigns, but it also can be a difficult space, a challenging space to break in. So I think this notion of mentorship is really an important one, and it's so much of why I have launched Gain Power, really to build a bigger network to support folks like you and like the others participating here. I've been very lucky. I've been working in democratic politics since probably before some of you all were born. And I've had amazing mentors in my life, people who really supported me when I was scared, when I was down, when I was between cycles, who encouraged me not to give up, not to change careers, not to go look for other work and to stick in the space. And as we all know, the cyclical nature of our work makes it part of probably what is most challenging about it. But it's also some of the most rewarding work I can ever imagine doing, which is why I've stuck with it for so long. Randy, I want you to introduce the others and let y'all take up space. I'll stick around. I might jump in with a couple of questions, but I really want you all to share your stories, and I just want to watch y'all connect with each other.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Amy. I think I'd like to go around the horn here and ask folks to introduce themselves. Tell us a little about what you did on the campaign and what you're doing now, if that'd be okay. So let's start with you, Matt.
Yeah, I had to figure out how to unmute myself 3 years into Zoom, so that's crushing it to start out with. On the Pete campaign, my name is Matt Cordoni. On the Pete campaign, I was the Deputy Director of Rapid Response. So a lot of war room work with Ro, who's on now, who was one of our researchers and spokespeople, but obviously worked closely with everyone here. I'm currently working for Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. He recently took over for Congressman Kennedy, who retired to run for the Senate. I'm the communications director in his official office, run his leadership PAC, MA4 Dems, and I'm also senior advisor on his reelect.
Thanks so much, Matt. Let's go over to Rodericka Applewhaite.
Hey, y'all, it's Rodericka Applewhaite. I was on Pete as the researcher for the rapid response team, working with Cordoni really closely. Then I went to Michigan Democratic Party, where I am now. I am the senior communications advisor for the party, focusing on the governor's race, Governor Whitmer's reelect. So that's me.
Thank you, Rodericka, very much. Stefan, please.
Hey everybody, I am Stefan Smith. Pronouns are he, him, and his. I was online engagement director for Pete Buttigieg's campaign, but I started as creative content manager. So in this discussion, we'll talk about how to level up. Right now, I'm working as Deputy Chief Digital Engagement Officer for the ACLU, really trying to think through content. How do we create content that's engaging? How do we create content that moves people up the pipeline and gets them involved? And how do we make sure the next generation of talent is nurtured in this space and sent forward, trained and ready to fight? I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Tess.
Yeah, hey everyone. I feel like Marisol and I should go together because we actually had the same position on Pete's campaign as Deputy National Press Secretary. He's just really working on proactive pitches around the campaign, his policy work, his platform, that sort of thing, just working with the National Press Corps from South Bend. So it was a really, really fun time. I'm sure he'll share a little bit more from that experience throughout the conversation. And now I'm working as Deputy Communications Director in Senator Padilla's office, Alex Padilla, who is a senator from California and recently replaced our Vice President, Kamala Harris, in the Senate. So it's been a fun opportunity to build a new profile for a very new senator.
Great. And Marisol.
Hey, like Tess mentioned, I was one of two deputy national press secretaries, working with national press, local press, and Hispanic media. And right now I am the deputy communications director for a senator from Arizona, Mark Kelly. I worked on his campaign and transitioned into the official office, and he's up for re-election next year. So another brand new senator. Tess and I are still twins.
We can never not have the same job, actually. That's how this works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm up to now.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for that. I think it's widely known that the communication staff in particular from the Pete campaign have all gone on to do some really awesome things. So congratulations to you all. I think in terms of the conversation, I want to start somewhat broadly, and this was for anyone to pick up first if they'd like, but who do you identify in your life as a mentor of yours, and what did that mean to you, right? Who are some of your early mentors, and what were some of the things that they brought to your career, to your life, that you think, kind of helped you get to where you are today? Why don't we start with Stefan?
Not a call out. Look at this. No, thank you so much. I think when it comes to mentorship, I would not be where I am today without strong people who caught the vibe and saw what I could do and stood up for me in the rooms that I was not in and in the spaces I had not yet been allowed into. And when I think about that, this isn't just a political conversation. This goes back to my academic career. When I grew up, I was the first Black kid they ever let into the gifted program of my elementary school in South Carolina. That doesn't happen without, oddly enough, the Secretary of Education got involved, Dick Riley back then in the 90s, to throw back for the kids watching. And our principal at the time who really stood up and made sure that there was space for me. It's a guidance counselor in high school. It's my my favorite dean in college. It was Teddy Goff, who's right now one of the heads of Precision, who helped me get my first job after the Hillary Clinton campaign with now Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh, but now was then mayor and was running for re-election. I can think of Greta Carnes, I can think of Samantha Steelman, I can think of Michael Halley in certain instances. I can think of, there's tons of people who stepped in when I needed support, who I was able to build that relationship with, of trust and honesty and vulnerability, if we're being quite frank about mentor relationship, and who helped me get to the next stage of my career. I would not be here without their investment and their time and their belief in me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that sometimes mentors say things to you that you don't realize what they mean until much later. And one of my favorite stories is Elaine Stritch told the story once of this woman who came up to her and said, "I want to follow in your footsteps." And Elaine Stritch looked at her and said, "Well, wear comfortable shoes." That it's not always going to be easy. It's going to be rough sometimes, and you need to be comfortable. And for me, Liz Smith, who was our boss, has been a mentor of mine since 2016. And I remember once in 2015, she said as a half joke, "Always look your best when you're running a gaggle, because someone might accidentally take your picture as well." But what I've grown to understand what she meant was, and working with her for, more than 6 years now, always look your best means always have confidence going into a room, because you're going to need to prove your worth sometimes, even when you shouldn't have to. Liz is very big on creating space for yourself at a table, even if you're not invited, and very big on making sure that that sometimes you'll unfairly need to justify why you're in a room, like Stefan said. Always look your best. You can always feel your best. You can have the confidence to do the job that you were born to do. And I think having a mentor who subtly guides you on that path to make you your best self, to make you feel good about yourself, is something that you should be looking for, because a lot of times, your attitude and your headspace is over 90% of it.
Matt, I've never heard anyone in my life call Liz Smith subtle. They were like, "Oh, it's subtle." Like, I just want to point that out. Like, yeah. We're gonna get the fact checker. I just want to call it out.
Less direct than normal is how I would recategorize it.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback what Stefan was saying. I grew up in the South as well, and in Georgia, and I just didn't know that the political industry was a thing. I thought people voted every 4 years, and then you kind of go back to your life until the next cycle. And so being able to go to GW and like have the experience and like know what actually happens in the nation's capital. My first intern boss at Truman National Security Project, Mike Michella, is the first person to kind of demystify that process for me. And he taught me the most important lesson, which is just no one knows what they're doing. So it's something that I always remind myself, like when I have imposter syndrome, which is still definitely a thing for me. And I know definitely still a thing for women of color in this space. So that's always kind of the main piece of advice that I carry, and hope that I try to share it as much as possible.
Tess, Marisol, anything there?
Yeah, I've had quite a few mentors. Some were not necessarily, I don't want to say willing, but I definitely built a relationship with them, not under the circumstance of like them thinking they were going to impart all of their wisdom to me step by step. I don't think they're really looking for that, to onboard someone like that. But I think it's really important to sort of force your way into that door sometimes and get feedback from your bosses, whether they're in your office or counterparts in other fields, to kind of get some feedback from them. And I wouldn't say it's always like a lovely hand-holding relationship of having a mentor. Sometimes you gotta like really work your way in there and kill them with kindness to kind of pick their brain. I think he wouldn't mind me saying this, but now Adam Schiff's chief of staff, but was my first sort of press boss when he was communications director at the time. And he's definitely like sort of a gruff person and not like the most, doesn't exchange pleasantries every morning, but I didn't take offense to that. I just sort of like weaseled my way in there and began melting his cool exterior and picked up a lot of really great advice from him along the way. So I wouldn't say you necessarily have to be welcomed with open arms every time. If you really do the job, keep your head down and seek out that advice, I think you can kind of build those relationships a little bit more naturally throughout your, starting off in your career and throughout it as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I had the same kind of like experience as Tess. I honestly didn't know what a mentor was until I went to college. I didn't think that was a thing at all. And so I only learned that from other college students, that's something that you should look out for or seek out. So it was actually really hard for me to do that. But I think I had more like validators that were helpful in terms of getting my foot in the door for for political jobs and for political campaigns, just because of a lot of the volunteer work that I did on campaigns when I was in college in California, and through just like making friends and working hard and proving that I can do the work and outwork others, was able to get have references for other jobs, and that is how I was able to really start my career in politics. But I really didn't know that mentorship was a thing. So I don't know if that's just because I didn't have people around me who had mentors. So I don't know if other folks feel the same way, but I didn't really.
100%. Like I just didn't grow up in an environment where that was explained or where that was necessary. My family didn't come from a background where that's how you got jobs or that's how that place, like that just wasn't a thing for us. I think as I got older, what I realized is like there are certain parts of this industry that if you are not white or come from a certain class or a certain background, if there's not a certain familiarity with this, and there are barriers to that knowledge, and I think we should acknowledge that and speak that openly. If you don't have someone to help you navigate those barriers, you're not going to get to the quote unquote hidden knowledge you need to succeed. So much of politics, I think it's 60 to 65% of jobs in politics are unlisted. You have to know someone, you have to be already on the inside. And that's a significant barrier to women, to people of color, and especially to people from the LGBTQ community. So I think like what Marisol's saying hits me really hard, just because there was such a learning curve. And I hope no one watching this doesn't feel like they have access to the resources or the knowledge. I hope we can be useful here in helping break down some of the mystique.
Yeah, the only time I heard about an opportunity for a campaign was like a volunteer opportunity, and that's how I started. Otherwise, like I'd never heard of a job opening for a campaign. Like it was just very word of mouth.
Yeah.
It's still word of mouth. I was going to say, as someone who has been on a tirade for a couple decades to try to get people to post their jobs, right? It is hard. It is such an insider network of people. So that you guys have obviously, now been doing this a little while. But we're all doing it in this unprecedented pandemic, which I think adds layers to this that make it even more complicated for obvious reasons. What are some of the things that you've done over the past year to stay connected either to your mentors or to your mentees, by the way? I'd love to hear about you mentoring others,
right.
Who mentored you.
I had a 90-minute call with my mentee yesterday because he's thinking about careers and he's thinking about next steps, and he needed someone with experience to be able to, all right, is this a good move? Is this not a good move, etc. Really quickly, sorry, just wanted to go back, Amy, to what you just said. Like, it's so hard about getting people to list jobs and opportunities. And what that does is, especially when you combine it with something like not paying your interns or paying them super low or unpaid internships, what we end up with is a self-reinforcing system where only the ones who know, who have the knowledge, are able to navigate it. I think what I'm trying to do with my mentees, I have 6 of them. Every job I've gone to, I've tried to lift everyone up, and there are some people, whether it's Nick Cornado from the Team Pete campaign or Emily Williams, who's now at Precision, all my mentees have jobs and are very well placed. And so I think I'm bragging on them, they're great. And so I love them to death. They're so great. What they do for me is they give me, I don't know, you don't know something until you've had to teach it, right? You don't know something until you've had to explain it to someone. And so they're constantly forcing me to reevaluate what I believe in. They're pushing me to think about the possibilities of digital because they're younger than me, and they're, some of them are Gen Z, and I don't know if y'all caught this, I'm not Gen Z. I do not have a middle part. I will keep my skinny jeans until the day they cut them off my body. But working with these Gen Zers who are coming into this field right now, making sure that their path is smooth, letting them know what is a normal and not normal work environment. So that they know not to take abuse and not to take, discrimination or bad working conditions as the norm, and certainly not to perpetuate those onto other people. I think for me, mentorship and my mentees has changed dramatically my relationship with the people who now work under me. I think I'm a much more empathetic boss, and it changes my relationship with the people above me because I'm looking actively now for who would support me the way that I support my mentees.
Yeah, I have a pretty informal, I wouldn't say I have any like formal mentees. I just have a really open door process for anyone that I've ever worked with to hit me up at any time for any reason, or suggest people that like, if they don't have advice, to like refer them to me. I just spoke to someone about how to negotiate for their first entry level position about a week ago, who I hadn't, who was like a volunteer on a race I worked on 3 years ago. It's just like, that's just kind of how I work. And I'm one of the people in DC that actually means it. If you can actually call me for drinks or coffee anytime, I will show up. And so that's kind of the relationship that I've had. But I agreed with Stefan, when I managed staff at Emily's List, it was really helpful to kind of have that process with them, check in with them weekly, and like have the whole thing. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about kind of the structure of working at a place like Emily's List versus a campaign. I had the time to really be that kind of asset for people that were obviously not going to be there for their entire careers and wanted to know what the next step looked like. And so that was kind of my experience. But yeah, that's I'm pretty a la carte with the advice I give out.
And Ro doesn't sleep, so it's like 24/7, whatever you need. I was her roommate in South Bend, so whenever you need her day or night, just give her a ring. And I'll just say, for pandemic networking, yeah, rough. Wouldn't wish it on anyone, but unfortunately, it's the position that we're in. I got really good advice, and I don't remember who to attribute this to early on in my career, but never leave a coffee or a conversation, like a networking conversation, without another person to talk to in the field. Like, I think that's just evergreen advice. So you continue to meet people and grow your network, because as we mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of these things are word of mouth, and you get an early preview into what jobs are coming online. So, and the other thing to keep in the back of your head is if there's any sort of fear or embarrassment in reaching out in a cold email or a cold call, please remove that from your brain. You know, especially in the political field, we've all been in that position, and we've all been hustling and all been trying to find the next thing. And I would say 9 times out of 10, probably higher, people are more than willing to have that conversation and initiate that conversation, and at least for one call or coffee. So just, I know it's a grind, but continue to reach out and always get that extra contact from someone to keep your search going and your networking going.
And I think also just remembering that we're all in the same situation. Don't be afraid to ask what someone's comfort level is. They're not going to just totally say no. I have a mentee where we met for coffee outside and did like a little outdoor walk. I have someone else who was just like, can we hop on the phone? Don't be afraid to give options and just acknowledge the pandemic situation we're in and see what folks' comfort level is. You can make something work, just don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. Actually, Rodericka, I wanted to go back to something that you said early on, which was the idea of imposter syndrome and how mentors can be helpful with that. I've started on the Yang campaign as the National Press Secretary. I remember after the first spin room, I got outside, started breathing kind of heavily, and called my first boss in politics and said, I cannot believe I just did that. I cannot believe I was in that room. And he calmed me down and reminded me that I deserve to be there, that, that we all, in that room deserve to be there. And so I wanted to hear from the mentor and mentee side, that thing that I think a lot of us have in politics. How have you leveraged those relationships to help you feel more secure in your work?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone else that I'm on this panel with knows that I reach out to them for advice all the time. Especially this year, this is my first like purely communications job. I was a researcher before this for 5 years. So I definitely had a lot of like, I want to switch into this because I had such a fun time working with these guys and doing comms work on Pete. How do I get there without basically starting all over and applying as a press assistant in places? Like I have a couch and furniture now, like I can't be doing all that. So I reached out to all of these guys. I remember Cordoni in particular, like he sat me down, I was like, bro, calm down. You can do this. You deserve to be here. Here's how this interview is going to go. Here's the kind of things they're looking for. And here are examples of all the things that you did on Pete that are really helpful. So I think it's really good to have a good like group of people that you can like soundboard off of to know that stuff. And so that's been really helpful for me. So these guys are very critical to the career that I have now.
Yeah. And maybe off of that to Stefan, you were talking about leveling up. In that way, what's your experience with leveraging these relationships that we have to improve your career, to actually level up and get positions that you think you're worthy of, but maybe afraid to approach it first?
I want to start from the blank position of I'm not afraid of any position, and I don't believe in imposter syndrome. And the reason I don't is because I've been in too many rooms with too many idiots. I'm sorry, I have. I went to Brown University. I have been with the cream of the crop. I've seen the A kids. I've seen, hung around with the Princess of Greece, Donatella Versace's daughter. Like, I've done the thing and seen the thing, and I've been in politics for 5 or 6 years. A lot of these people are dumb. Or they don't work hard, or they got through luck or chance. Like, me walking in the room, I belong in any room I walk into, and anybody within the sound of my voice, Rodericka, anyone within the sound of my voice should believe the same thing. You belong in any room you walk into. And I think going in with that sort of confidence can shift the conversation. So like, I used to work on a television show called Drunk History, which where they would get drunk and reenact historical things on Comedy Central. So I did most of season 4 of Drunk History. I started out as their researcher, one of 7 or 8 people in the writer's room pitching stories. I not only did that job really, really well and like really came and gave it my all, I started joining the host of the show on his cigarette breaks, Derek Waters. And we would take that time of just like one-on-one connection. A cigarette break is what, 4 to 7 minutes, depending on the weather and how fast you're smoking. So 4 to 7 minutes with him somewhat periodically to be like, your Twitter sucks, right? What are you doing on Snapchat? Y'all ain't got a YouTube channel. Just like poking him about digital. Eventually, he cut the writer's room down to just 2 people. I got to stay, and I kept having those conversations. What are you doing here? Or how are you thinking about this? Oh, they want you to make a Drunk History board game. Ooh, girl. And having those conversations and walking through with him. So when we finally stopped and the writing process was over and the writers were all sent home, me and the other woman, I was like super despondent. I was like, oh my God, I spent all this time with him and I really hoped he would keep me on and I get to go on set. And I was just like almost like hurt. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a call from Melissa, the line producer, like, did you tell Derek Waters that his Snapchat and his Instagram game sucked? I was like, yeah. She's like, all right, he wants you on set. And then she offered me a job as on-set digital to help collect content. I got to work with these celebrities. I got to work. There's tons of ways to get in the door. I think Tess did a really good way of being intentional and being really smart and knowing you wanted that mentor relationship, et cetera. My strategy has been one of just supreme confidence and competence and seeing who responds to that vibe, who responds to that energy, who's not threatened by that energy, who just gets what I'm putting down. And then it tends to work out. And then I have to nurture and sort of cultivate those relationships.
Absolutely.
I had to laugh because I think I said literally to Ro at one point that like the thing about being in the room with idiots, I was probably less diplomatic. But I can't stress throughout your career how many times you'll walk into a space where someone will just confidently be wrong.
All the way wrong, man.
Yes,
just wrong.
Just confidently, like, not even like on the same ballpark. So you need to understand that you can't be afraid to step up and go into the room and be that person, because someone less talented than you is way braver than you are, and you deserve to be there.
I think the next question for me is going past just the mentor relationship into when sometimes the mentee might become the mentor. I look back at so many of the folks that helped me early in my career in state politics, and then the ways that I'm able to help them now with so many of the things that I've learned kind of going up the ladder. But I also think it's really important to remember to stay connected with those folks, because I think they can continue to teach you new things going through life. They may have started as a career mentor, but as I'm getting older, I think those folks are becoming a much different role in my life as far as more of a mentor on life. I'd like to hear if anybody has a similar experience for themselves.
There is nothing cooler, Randy, than your mentor who knew you when you knew nothing, you growing into becoming a peer. That is amazing. And so when I think back to Teddy Goff, I think is a really good example here. I literally, I think, had a weekly call with Teddy. Precision was consulting on Secretary Walsh's mayoral race in 2017. Interviewed me for the job of like sort of digital director on the ground. So I had a weekly call with Teddy where we're sort of aligning. I think on call 2, I said, okay, I've decided you're going to be my mentor, just FYI. And he's like, what? I was like, oh yeah, it's already decided. Yeah, this goes back to the overconfidence thing. Just like believe it. I was like, you're my mentor now. And so for a year, it was me talking to him every week and through this work thing. When that job ended, he called me while I was driving across country and gave me some really smart advice that I didn't listen to about professionalism and how to grow and how to get ahead. But it was like really wonderful advice that I just couldn't stick to. And he's been with me as I went through all of these jobs. And now I'm, I don't know, number 2 digital person at the ACLU. And it's the inequality between us went, you know, from who the fuck am I to Teddy Goff, sorry, language, to a lot more equal and a lot more, I can come to him as a peer and I can talk to him about management, and I can talk to him just about, it became less, the power imbalance became less visible in our relationship, and it became way more, in my opinion, equal and proactive, and I was so thankful for that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's powerful in that you went in and sought out the mentor, right? But I think sometimes...
Well, I specifically told Teddy, I was like, Teddy, it's you. It's going to be you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'd like to go around the horn here a little bit on, you know, with those mentors, do you think that you actively sought them, or and sometimes did they come and grab you? And then as a mentor yourself, I mean, do you sometimes identify folks that you want to take into kind of your circle and develop, or how has that process worked for you? Let's start with Matt.
Yeah, I think the best one I have an example of is in grad school. Dottie Lynch was the director of our graduate program at American University. She's also was the first woman to be a pollster on a national campaign. And she started the graduate program at AU in political communications because she was very concerned about the next generation of political communications professionals. And she is someone who I did not pick. She picked me. And I will always remember one time she called me tenacious. And I had never been more proud to be described as something in my life because Dottie thought I was tenacious. And the reason I bring her up is because she unfortunately passed away before we graduated. She developed a very aggressive form of cancer. We were still in school. So she didn't get to see my career, but I think about her every day and I know that she'd be one of the most proud of it. But something that she always instilled in us, because she could have, you know, retired or gone to a consulting firm and make $1 billion. And instead she was at American University trying to connect us with her friends who are still working. And so the thing that she instilled in us was you have this obligation to give back and you have this obligation to train the next generation of your field. And so I didn't pick her, and because I didn't pick her and I tried to make her proud by her example, I pick other people. And I have a very, very hard and fast rule for myself that I stay in contact with all my press assistants. Anyone who's ever worked under me, one's in Harvard Law School now, one is now a communications director on the Hill. the one that I'm working with now, Hannah, is learning some policy stuff as well, which I'm very, proud and encouraging of that. And so I think the things you learn from the ones that don't pick you are how to be a good mentor in return for the ones that you pick.
Yeah, I mentioned I fully picked my mentor, but I don't think I knew to call them that at the time. I think I was just like, I'm seeking someone constantly for advice and feedback about work things. And that's sort of how it developed with the relationship, that we still, text frequently and catch up often about work there. But I will say one of the best pieces of advice I got there, and I think the only reason it stuck, right? I think you can engage people a lot, but it doesn't mean they're going to reciprocate. But I think why it stuck is because you are, as Stefan mentioned about drunk history, you're doing a good job. At the same time, you're doing every job, no matter how small, no matter how big. You're always hustling. You're always like a solid person they can rely on. I think a lot of people that I want to mentor and seek out to mentor are people that I also respect their work and their work product. I'm not going to mentor someone who's all the way a mess. Like I got to see some glimmer of work ethic there and some potential. So I think you gotta like also put in the work at the same time that you're seeking these folks out for guidance throughout your career.
Marisol, anything there?
I also had someone who is a mentor. I didn't know to call him that at the time, but who sought me out from like the first time we like had a conversation just about, my interest in politics and my first time doing like consulting work for a congressional race. And I was like fresh out of college and I was just doing it for like side money. And we talked like through what that process looks like this is how you like write a script. This is how you like send something for approval. This is how you like engage with a candidate. And it was really helpful. And he just kind of like demystified like what that process is, because I'd never done it. And I was like, oh, this is actually really easy. And a lot of people who are paid consultants and were being paid way more than I was, didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And I was out of college and had better ideas. So it gave me some confidence there, and, my ability of, actually being able to do communications work. And then he kept like recommending me for jobs and sending me job postings. And I'm like, I'm not qualified for this stuff. I can't be like a deputy press secretary in the Senate. I just graduated from college. I don't have experience. And he's like, you don't understand. Like you can just apply. Like you can, people, like I can recommend you to someone who is very well connected in paid media and politics. And he would explain the difference between a job for like a PAC versus a job on a campaign. And all that stuff was really helpful for me, especially out of college, when the only thing that I knew was like a campaign on a presidential race. I didn't realize there were PACs. There were all these other types of campaign work that you could do, especially in communications. So it was helpful to have someone who believed in my ability to do the work, and who was always like aggressive about being a validator for me on my behalf, and like actually using his network, which I think the problem is like a lot of dudes in this work will say that they would like to be an ally and supportive, but the way you want to be supportive is by actually recommending someone's resume for a job, and like putting in that work, like using your network to get someone a job, and not just like saying that you're supportive of someone and we'll get coffee with them sometime. So Josh Wolf from AL Media is that person for me, and he was always willing to put his name and his brand out there to help me and get my foot in the door in this work.
Thank you. I think at this time I would like to remind folks watching that we are definitely asking for questions. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask, please throw it up in the chat. Amy, anything else for you here as we close in on our last 15 minutes here? Hopefully we do get some audience questions. Reminiscing
on my own mentors and mentees, I'm just loving hearing your stories. I miss networking with people. I miss real life things. I'm still not ready for them, by the way, but I miss them, even though I'm not ready for them. You know, and I just so appreciate, you know, hearing from your stories, the challenges that you have. I think it's so important that we take time and take space. I have a temptation to ask you all sorts of Team Pete stuff because I have all sorts of curious questions just about the campaign, but I want to stay on point here, stay on topic. Lots of questions about comms, lots of questions about digital. I will ask a question that's a little bit career focused, and I say this more just for one, for those of you who are working on the Hill or members. I am curious if you went to the jobs that you have, and maybe even you, Stefan, in the you know, whether you went to, I'm just going to use it like the job versus the campaign, right? If you went for stability, or if you went for, because you know, it was just like the next natural thing. I am thinking about just, again, the lifestyle, the real true campaign lifestyle. Not that you're not all doing campaign work. It is all political. It is all progressive work, but I'm curious about that. And again, thinking about advice for folks about kind of moving around into different type of sectors. Anyway, jump in.
No, I'm saying I got this. This is my question. Everyone in this chat, hey Team P people who've been to my apartment in South Bend, everything in that apartment was rented, and they know it was rented. Like, it's like the thing about political jobs is the hardest political job to get is your first one, because of the barriers to get in, as the pipeline issues we talked about earlier. For me, I caught the political bug after 2016. Drunk History ended after I did the on-set thing. It was super dope. And then I went to go work for Hillary Clinton as deputy digital in Michigan. And so after that ended, I had a revelatory moment of, I want to be in politics. This is what I want to do. I'm older than everyone else. I've not wasted, but spent a considerable amount of my 20s in graduate school in a completely different industry, trying to climb a completely different ladder. So the drive back after Hillary Clinton lost from Detroit to Los Angeles, very sad drive, lots of Taylor Swift. I was feeling it all. But what I did in that moment was decided that I needed experience, I needed it quickly, and I needed the titles. So I literally set out on a plan, and you can see it on my resume, where I did back-to-back campaign work for 5 years. I did 4 campaigns and worked for a state party, and including Pete. And just moved. I went from Detroit to Los Angeles to Boston, sold everything I had to move to Boston, including my car, Bertha, my Volkswagen Jetta, station wagon, may she RIP, always. Sold her to get a job and lived in Dorchester. Moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico to work for Senator Heinrich, and then got traded to the state party and became their first digital director, and then moved to South Bend, Indiana, and then moved to, now I'm in DC. Practical advice to do this: 1, get a job. I don't care what the job is, doesn't matter what the political job is, get a job, do it perfectly. Meet everybody, be good at your job. Being good at your job is half the battle. 2, don't be afraid to avoid DC. I just moved to DC now, towards the middle stages of my career. I built my entire brand outside of DC. You can do it. I promise you, it's not that hard. 3, if you have to ever pick between titles and money, pick the title. It's the title that gets you the job on the next one. When I got hired at Pete's campaign, I was creative content manager. In August of 2019, I negotiated that to deputy platforms manager because that was the job I was already doing. And they created that job for me. In January of 2020, I became online engagement director. Right? My material job didn't necessarily change that much from beginning to end, but having that title opened up a complete world of difference. And then finally, number 4 is rent your furniture. It's hard to go back around. It's rent your furniture. It cost me $200 a month on a campaign salary to never have to worry about boxing anything up, to not own anything. They'll come and get it when the campaign's over with. You call some guys with a truck and they come and they take it. Done. And everything else fits in the back of my car. Number 5, find your happy places as you move around. My happy places are a Chinese food place, a nail salon, a hair or barber spot to get that done, and a movie theater because I'm gonna watch a Marvel movie wherever I'm at. Figure out how to create home so that as you jump around, it doesn't feel so disjointed.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to. Oh, sorry.
You go.
Okay. Yeah, since I have like a bit of an ad hoc mentorship type of behavior, I've had a lot of calls with people this year that are like, yeah, like I know 22 cycle is exciting, but I just really want to be in DC. And it's like, listen, just work on a goddamn race. Like there's so much, especially if you're fresh out of college, like just do it. Like it doesn't, I mean, as someone that's worked on some real scrappy races, it does not have to be a prestige thing. It's just to get the experience of what that's like. And it's a very small world. Like my transition, I thought it was going to be a much harder transition for me working for some pretty like fringy candidates. And now I'm working for, you know, the top gubernatorial race for the 2022 cycle. It's a very quick trajectory. It's much faster if you want to do if you do campaigns. But I will say with that too, I think you need to also decide whether you want to do governance, like my Hill friends on this call, or like campaigns. I think it requires comms is a little different because comms you're kind of always in campaign mode because your job is to elevate your principal. But I think there's usually a huge difference between the people that are really good on the Hill. Like I never even did a Hill internship. I knew that was not for me. And then people that have done kind of campaign advocacy type work. So figure out what that is. If that means you have to go do a Hill internship, go do that. But honestly, just work on a race. There's going to be a lot of exciting races coming up for the cycle. A lot of things are starting to hire now, and everyone's going to be staffing up right now between now and March. So just get out there. I know, and I get it. I've been 22 and felt like I was really entrenched in my current life, and how could I pick up and go somewhere else? Just do it. It's not, you don't have that much going on. Go work on a race. You won't regret it.
I can't count like the number of people who are picky about the first job they want to have in politics. I'm like, really? Like I started off as a volunteer. Like, you can do it. Campaigns are like startups. You can figure out like you can chart your own path. Like it's very easy to move up within the campaign if you do it right. If you talk to people, like what Stefan has said, there are a lot of people who are picky though about the first job that they want to have. Like I want to have real responsibilities. Like no one's going to give you that unless you've actually proven yourself. And like it's very easy to do that on a campaign. Most of the time there isn't an actual org chart. Like you don't know who's in charge. So you can kind of, take on task and propose ideas as long as you're the person that is able to come up with a plan to execute it and actually do it. Like people will trust you and give you more responsibilities, and that's how you're able to grow. But don't be picky. Just do the work hard. If it might be a role that you think is beneath you, but if this is your first time like entering the world of politics, you should do the job that you have, even if it's something that is like beneath you, and just do it really, really well. And like keep your eyes peeled for when someone has a to-do list and like things are falling off the to-do list, and be the person that steps up and is proactive about taking that off someone's plate, because you want to make yourself a useful team member, and you have to do more to stand out as part of a team when you are starting off in the world of politics and like starting off in campaigns. So it really is your responsibility to prove yourself, and you should not expect other people to just recognize you and automatically like see that you're doing a great job. Like you have to, you can't be humble. Like you can't be a wallflower on a campaign. You really do need to talk to people and demonstrate that you're capable of the work that you're doing, even if it's a small project.
Yeah, I was gonna say that a few things that Stefan said that triggered me is, one, DC will always be here. Oh my God, Amy, your dog. Amazing. Don't be afraid to leave it and come back. It's not going anywhere, for better or worse. And
right.
Not being afraid to get out there on the trail. Like Rose said, my first job in politics was for Governor O'Malley's presidential campaign in 2016, which did not make it much past Iowa, but it was where I learned a lot of skills, and not only where I made most of my professional connections that have led to every job since then, but it's where I made some of my best friends that I still talk to this day. It's been helpful professionally as well. And in terms of, coming to the Hill, I think what Marisol said is, don't two things Marisol said that are amazing. One, you know, you can't expect to walk out of college and become Josh Lyman the next day. And I feel like there's an unrealistic expectation in media as to what working in politics is going to be like. And when you're 23 and it's not that the day after college, you become very disenchanted. But, you know, it's the people who come in early and stay late and aren't afraid to get their battle scars by going out to Iowa and transcribing and doing the stuff that might not seem glamorous but is important. The ones who stick it out through that are the ones who stick around for a while. And the other thing is not just position and location, but love who you're working for. It's not great hours, and you don't make enough money to, you know, be in this unless you're passionate about it. In terms of coming to the Hills for stability, I don't want to speak for Marisol or Tess, but I know this is true for me, and I'm very confident it's true for them as well. I came here because I love my boss. I think he's a really cool, dynamic person. I think he's part of the bench of the Democratic Party. I think he has a great story to tell, and he needed someone good to tell it. And I know
not you here on the mentor call flacking.
But I know Marisol and Tess feel the same way about their bosses, and I think that's sometimes can be a big motivator to come to the Hill and leave the campaign trail is who you're working for.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop us there just for a second because I am gonna move on to some of these questions. We have about 5 minutes left, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Sorry, Tess, to cut you off there a little bit. So we're just gonna go through these, and I definitely would like more than one person to try to answer. We'll try to do it quickly. First one I'm gonna go to is a question from, I think, Lee Walzer, who asks, can you get into this field when you're older or looking for a second or third or fourth career? I have some feelings about that. Some of my best mentors and coworkers in the space have come to this job or this career much later in life. Matt, somebody?
I'll let Tess go on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the campaign advice is evergreen. I sort of beelined it to DC and straight to the Hill, but I went out on a campaign a couple cycles after that. So I sort of did the reverse from what a couple folks on this call did, is packed up my stuff and moved after building a little bit of a career start here, which was scary, but it made me a much better communicator on the campaign. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fast and loose, a lot less process, a lot more flacking, and a lot more oppo research to pitch on the road. So then you can from the official side, which is more austere, more senatorial, more elevated. So I think although it wasn't necessarily a second career, it's just that the campaign is always available to you. And I think that's a really great way to kind of get back into the mix. As we said, it's good for starting out, and it's good for a second crack at things.
I just want to jump in and also say, if you're significantly older, digital is becoming less centralized, more distributed. There's more ways for you to get involved, regardless of your age, as long as you're willing to jump in and do the work. So I think, and I would go through the same door Tess is saying, which is campaigns.
Fantastic. We'll try to get one more in here.
Randy, ask the what's it like to be hated question. Sorry, whatever that was.
Oh yeah, that's what I was getting to here somewhere. Basically, it said, how do you deal with someone disparaging you in the industry? What's the question? How do you react to that? What is your recourse? And how do you remain professional in that moment? I think that's a great question.
Have a good group chat.
A good group chat will save you some bad moments on Twitter. Yeah.
Embrace the rat emojis.
I think the serious answer, if I'm gonna be serious, right? Well, hold on, wait. If I'm gonna be serious here, and really think about, I've had people hate me after I've left every job I've been on. There's always been one or two people who see the confidence that I come in with as a threat. There are people who are racist, and I've written about that on my Substack, who see like large Black men who are aggressive or whatever, quote unquote, and sort of talk bad about you. The way to win is to succeed. the best way to shut up someone who's disparaging you is to prove them wrong with the work. There are a lot of people very early in my career who doubted me and made their doubts very, very public. And now they're forced to follow me on Twitter because of my influence in the democratic ecosystem. I think nothing wins like success. Nothing shows people up like showing you can do the work and doing exemplary work, and the haters can choke on it.
Yeah, something not so subtle. Liz Smith. Oh yeah, this is a not subtle Liz Smithism. Is revenge is a dish best served cold. So the best way to deal with it is to stick around and become more successful.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I think we're at time. Eric Sanchez has joined us here at the very end, who convened the panel. I know that he wants to take us out. So, Eric, I'll leave it to you, and we'll say bye to everyone. And thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Randy. And I was only being fashionably late, but I just want to say to the folks that were able to join the panel, like all of you, when Randy and I worked on the 2020 cycle, we did so looking to you all to be the spearhead of what we'd be able to be capable of doing. Randy and I started a firm last year based off of basically the same hustle that you all put together. And, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and those giants are you all. And we're just happy and pleased that you all set such a great example for our industry in terms of the right way to do the work that we do. And I'm just elated. I hope that we get to see each other soon. And thank you all again for your time. And, I hope that we connect. And at some point, I hope we get to be colleagues. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I want to just thank you all for being here too. And just a couple quick things. One, a couple amazing nuggets. Drop in, by the way, Stefan, your Substack. I want to subscribe. And I'm assuming others want to too, by the way. Thank you, Eric and Randy, for organizing too. And finally, just as a quick FYI, a couple of things we haven't announced yet, but we're doing a big conference in December. We're actually doing a series of events, largely targeting the folks coming off 21, but really for anybody interested in engaging in 2022. We'll be doing a lot more panels. Any of you are interested in coming back, I bet other folks would love to see you. If you have some of your own ideas of different topics, love to hear them. So stay tuned for that. It'll be in December. And just again, thank you for being here. Lots going on. One other final just announcement. We're launching next week, and I think you all appreciate this too, a new series where we're going to do essentially live informational interviews. So we've got a lot of folks posting jobs, and we've decided that we're going to interview the employers. We're going to act like we're the job seekers. Isn't that a fun idea? And, really it'll be an opportunity for us to ask some of the questions that maybe job seekers, back to this whole imposter syndrome or just fears, will be afraid to, might be afraid to ask some of the tough questions. So stay tuned on that as well. Anyway, those are my quick announcements, but again, much gratitude and thank you. Love meeting you as meeting goes these days, and look forward to seeing your amazing work in the years to come. Thanks for doing what you do.
And thanks for being so awesome. The first one of these that I've done, it wasn't so scary, and you guys were great. So it was a great experience.
You did great. Right? Like Randy, you're a mensch over here. You did great.
Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks. You're too much. You're too kind. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, participants too. And I'm going to end this for us all.